Star Wars, nothing but Star Wars. Give me the Star Wars, don't let them end.
How much would you like? I don't know if you'd lose your mind. How much would you freak out if I got Bill Murray to do our show?
I mean, if you manage to get the BM to do our show, like, it's not a matter of freaking out. I would be in a measure of disbelief.
I'm gonna ask a coworker for a favor. I have a coworker who's friends with him.
Oh, sure.
And to be like, can you just have him record a video selfie? Like, I feel like I don't know if it could happen. He does the intro to our show, so I thought, to our Star Wars segment, so I thought he'd feel honored to be able to do a little cameo.
I'm sure he would for no money.
Sure, exactly. We're talking Star Wars, talking all the Star Wars movies, reviewing all the Star Wars movies, and revisiting them, leading up to Episode 9
this weekend, baby.
This week, I'm excited. This is recording the Wednesday prior, so officially comes out Friday-ish, Thursday.
And don't bother telling me like, oh, and have you seen the reviews? I don't care.
Yeah,
I don't care. I'm gonna see it anyway, and I'm probably gonna enjoy it.
Yep. We are talking about what I would say is the most divisive Star Wars movie, period. Episode 8.
Yeah, sure.
Well, I mean, okay, we can rag on the prequels, and the prequels have a lot of people who rag on them. We can rag on Solo. Most people rag on that movie. But this movie has, in my opinion, I think it's split people down the middle.
Sure.
Split groups, split people. It's not that we're arguing over this over Thanksgiving dinner, but yeah, there's people who love it. There's people who hate it. We recently rewatched it. How many times have you seen this movie?
3.
Okay, that's exactly how many times I've seen it. Which is
watching it today was the 3rd time that I've seen it. I watched it twice in theaters.
Okay, this is the least I've watched it. I watched it once in theaters. I watched it once when it came out to home video because I had to have it. Because I collect, this is
Star Wars. I bought it
It's
day
Star
one
Wars.
and just never.
Yeah.
I opened it, did the digital code, added it to my video.
Sure, and this is my 3rd time watching it as well, which was last night, and I was the first time that I watched it, I think I was in shock. Like, and I'm not saying that to be dramatic. Like, the first time that I watched it, I was like, yeah, it was good, and part of me was like, I don't know how to feel about it. Second time I watched it, I didn't like it. This time, I just feel like it's down the middle. There's things that I really enjoyed, and there's things that I didn't enjoy at all. We'll go over this.
I had a similar thing. The very first time I saw it, I did not like it at all. The second time I saw it, I was like, I like it.
Okay.
And then watching it today, there's things about it there's definitely things about it that I even would say love, but there's also things about it that I absolutely hate.
Yeah. So I'm gonna list some of the things that we can go back and forth about things that we liked.
Okay, we're starting with liked. We want to go positive first.
Start with positive.
Okay.
I mean, we could start with bad. Let's start with the good stuff, right?
Okay.
And it's the only other video that I queued up because I was trying to find other videos for sources. But the Yoda appearance as the Force Ghost, I liked. I enjoyed it. They used a puppet again, and having Frank Oz there was great. I also thought that it was a very mix of the tone of Yoda mixed with the chat that Luke had with Obi-Wan in Return of the Jedi. It kind of had that feel to it, and this, of course, is very reminiscent of Empire when he's looking up at the X-wing. I really liked this scene.
Yeah. I have a hard time picking out specific scenes, but Yoda was cool.
Yeah.
But what I wanted to say that I like that does go that coincides with this scene is what they were doing to the Jedi lore. Mm-hmm. I really loved what Ryan was going to be doing with the Jedi lore here, and the fact so you think that the Jedi end? Yoda's like, yeah, we messed up. And it's probably time to move on a bit because we showed during the old times that we actually don't understand this as much as we think that we did. Yeah. And obviously Yoda's been living in the netherworld now, and so he obviously has a greater understanding since he transcended that anyway. But what they were doing there, where they were getting rid of the religion of the Jedi and saying we're not above everybody, but
Yeah.
they're acknowledging like force sensitive things. I liked the direction that was going. The great
Yes.
Jedi that is never going to happen. But that's
Sure.
that was what was going on, was the great Jedi,
Yeah.
in my opinion. You know, and maybe they weren't going to put that name on it. Rey is obviously not going to. Well, I wouldn't say obvious, but she's not going to be that. Ben Solo is not going to be that. I loved what they were doing with the lore there.
Yeah, no, I absolutely love that too. I also, I mean, I didn't like it the second time, and I kind of didn't like it the first time, but I like how, upon third viewing, I do like how Luke is struggling with what amounts to like a brief moment of weakness. And then because of that moment of weakness, he set a set of these events forward, and he's like regretting that. And that, to me, people were like, "Oh, I can't believe he went and hid." I'm like, "Well, that's what all the Jedi did. All of the Jedi went and hid when the times got tough." And for him, it was an internal struggle, which is harder than an external struggle. And I think some people don't. It's hard to kind of convey that. And I don't think he did a great job conveying it. But I got it more the third time, going, "Oh." Like he's struggling with not only him having weakness, but his weakness causing all of this, and like, how do I undo the stuff that I did?
Yeah, and that's where I didn't like with and this is where like this is like a character choice and deciding whether I'm okay with them doing that to the character or not. Because I had a problem, just like I had a problem whenever we watched episode 3. I had a problem. I have a problem with all of them being pansies and going into hiding. Like,
Yeah.
I get to a point why they were doing it, but at the same time, like, I get it from a survival standpoint. If you want to admit it's survival, fine, but don't say like exile because I'm a failure. It's just it's the same way. Like, and Yoda was kind of like, does nobody learn from failure around here? Like, maybe Yoda figured it out in death. Like, it's stupid just to run away. Like, learn something.
You fail and you keep going. That's a great life lesson. Like, the people who do really well failed a lot to get there. You have to fail to learn. You have to. If you're not failing at all, you're not trying. And I love Yoda hitting him with the cane too, which cracked me up.
Yeah, and so I don't. I go back and forth on whether I'm okay with that character choice for Luke, because like and they even put it in the script where it's like, I was Luke the Legend, and so you can at least from the standpoint of like them writing it, they wrote it well to explain why he went away. But I hate that they did that to him. Yeah. I wish that there had been some other reason that.
Sure. And well, like, and he ran away for that, but the reason that he's staying away, he's like, I'm going to wait for them to die, and I'm going to die, and then we're done with the Force. No one's teaching any of this stuff anymore, was kind of the idea. But he should, like, he was talking about Snoke anyways, and I'm like, okay, hold on.
Snoke's not a Sith.
But Snoke's not a Sith, but like, what I mean is like, you have evil over here, and you have good over here, but there's more evil people, if you want to call them evil. I'm like, they could go teach people, and then there'd be an imbalance where there'd just be a bunch of darkness, as it were.
Which is why Rey's as powerful as she is because the Force is balancing itself.
Exactly. Thank you, Freddie Prinze Jr. I loved his rant, but yeah, it's I'm
gonna use it forever now.
Oh yeah, but it's true. Like, and the people who didn't like it, I'm like, oh, like that really hurt you because you're still a fan of something that's for children. But it's like
they also show that, like, maybe not from a Force, and she even proves that she doesn't understand the Force as well, but they show her like practicing it with her bow.
Yes,
like that she is a very talented warrior, so that's why she was so good with the lightsaber anyway. Like, the whole thing about, you can go back in the other things, like where Qui-Gon tells Anakin, don't think, feel. Like, Obi-Wan puts the blaster shield over Luke's face, like, feel it. And so she feels it. But then you get to where she's like, well, you know, you make stuff float and so on, where like, and the comedic definition for her of the Force, and he's like, no, you're an idiot. Yeah. That's where you could see, like, she's clearly not that kind of Force user, but like, I don't understand how anybody could ever dispute that she was a good warrior.
She's a good warrior. She's intuitive, and actually, I think that was one of the only times, because people talk about her being Mary Sue, which she's pretty close to being a Mary Sue, if not a Mary Sue. Luke is whatever the male version of that is, straight up, and you know, people can say he's not, but he is. he's great at everything. He's flying X-wings, and they give a reason like, oh well, he flew T-16s on Tatooine. But this
can Bullseye womp rats.
Yeah.
You know?
So this movie actually did show like it's like, okay, she's not great at everything because she's not in regards to her emotional connection to the Force, in regards to her depth of knowledge and even understanding of the world, is very, very short-sighted. It's just good, bad, I want to survive. It's there's not a lot that's deeper than that, other than like, I just want to be good. Well, what does that mean? I don't know. Well, what's the Force? I just lift things. Like, to me, I was like, oh, not that she's stupid, but she kind of has a shallower.
She lived on a desert planet.
Exactly. You're around you become who you surround yourselves with, and if you're surrounded by a bunch of scavengers who can't think outside the box, that's where you are. And I think this is allowing her to get deeper in regards to understanding the Force and understanding everything in life. Yeah.
I was trying to think of just like the banter and stuff is still pretty good.
Yeah.
The way that even like the newer characters play off each other is pretty good. I don't always like what they're saying to each other, but Mark Hamill is masterclass. Like, you can tell the guy's been doing this for a very long time. He's a voice actor. For those who don't know, he's done tons of voice acting and stuff. So like, you can tell he's very good at being conversational. There's parts where they're playing off each other. Even whenever he's talking to like Chewie and R2, where we can't understand that banter is still there. I liked that. Yeah. And the other thing I wanted to bring up is something that I on this viewing I liked more was Rose Tico, at least in the beginning. I liked her more than I did because previously watching it, the setup of her character and her first scene is good. Sure. It's not amazing, but it's good. And especially
then
the tasing people, that was awesome.
Well, yeah, because she goes from she's like, "Oh my God, you're a hero," and and then she's like, "Yeah, I'm just down here stopping people from boarding." Wait, you're a traitor. You're gonna leave. Like, tase him. I'm like, that's cool. And then I think the character should have stopped at that point. There was no reason for her to be brought along to anything else. I just feel like she was along for the ride because they had to give Finn someone to run with, and I'm like, just have Poe there, just have Poe leave with him because we want more buddy action between the two of them. They're great together, and I think it would have been a better situation. I'm not going to rag on the actress; it wasn't the actress's fault. I just don't like the character direction at that point. She's only there as a mouthpiece to talk about oh, look at the military and look, these people fund the wars, and I don't need that exposition. I want to see the gambling. You show me a gambling planet of a bunch of rich people. I'm like, okay, I get it. They're pretentious. Let's steal from them.
And before we jump into the things that I don't like, and Cassie mentioned it too, the casino thing. I'm gonna go on a rant on the casino thing. But the last thing that I absolutely did love, I loved the expansion of Force powers.
Yes.
We had seen long distance stuff a little bit with Luke and Vader, but they were still relatively close, but they were still across ships and everything. They communicated. Luke reached out to Leia a couple times. They expanded that distance to where it can go very far. We had heard Yoda mention it a couple times where Yoda had watched over Luke. We brought that up whenever we were revisiting Empire, that I noticed that, and now I notice it more. They the Snoke mentions that he's bridged their minds, which I still don't. Okay, however you did that, that's cool. But that was cool doing that with the powers, doing the holograph stuff with the powers that Luke does, the expansion of the mind stuff, instead of just making it all this cool flashy things, things where they're doing. I don't want to say psychedelic, but
it's psychological.
Approaching that kind of Force, that was cool.
Yeah, and I agree, because when you saw the hologram, if you will, whatever. When I saw it, the first thing everyone was like, "Oh, it's a hologram, it's a projection," and I was like, "That's not how the Force works." Immediately, I'm like, I thought he was in there, making them believe he was there. So the audio trick that Obi-Wan does, the little noise that he does in A New Hope that gets the stormtroopers to look the other way.
Yeah.
Like, it's like a next level version of that. It's like, look, you can see me, I'm right in front of you, but I'm not. So it's not a hologram of light. It's all in your brain, which is crazy cool. And it would be draining for you to do. I don't think he should have died doing that. Someone said like, oh, he was a coward for doing that. I'm like, I don't think that he expected to die. And I think that was his way of like, or maybe he didn't, but
I think he did.
But if he was going to fly
die.
there, but if he was ascended,
Yeah.
but like if he flew, got in the X-wing, made it work, flew over there, and then stood in front of the AT-ATs, he's gonna die, and then it wouldn't save them more than maybe a minute, and that projection that he did and that distraction saved everyone.
I forget, did he say much to learn you still have? Because he should have.
I can't remember.
He should. I mean, even if they totally pulled that line, that was the perfect moment for him to be like, "Still got a lot to learn, bro."
Yeah.
I love that. I didn't like a whole lot of the stuff nearing the end of that movie, but I loved that moment. I love the brush off. I love that was a pure awesome like cocky Luke moment that I enjoyed.
And I like Kylo like slamming the commander or captain, whatever, like that's like I'm like, he's like, not now. Like,
yeah.
I loved that. What's your least favorite part of this movie? Let's go there. If you can.
I mean, I have two major things because I don't want to be too negative on it. Like again, we're talking, but
it's still fun.
Cassie mentioned it in the chat, and it's my least favorite thing. That casino arc is stupid.
Yep,
it's absolutely dumb. It is a waste of 30 minutes. You took a 2-hour movie and made it 2 hours and 31 minutes so that you could go to this planet for PETA or something. I don't know. Did PETA sponsor this? I'm not sure what happened. I didn't get it. There's no reason to be there. Oh, I need some master code break. Whatever. Like you have a perfectly capable Rose engineer. Like, why couldn't Rose be a code breaker if she was like as smart as she was when it came to engineering? What do they do?
She's like, oh yeah, I tinker with slicing in my spare time or something. You're like,
I don't care.
Well, you could do it. And then I did think it was also a loss of a setup. Like when they're drumming up this guy and they're talking about how suave he is, Maz Kanata basically alludes to her, like
being
she
a sex
and him
object.
having some stuff. I'm like, okay, like she was talking about how smooth he is, and he's a poet with a blaster, and and I was like the first time I watched it, I'm like, oh, it's gonna be Lando.
Lando, yeah,
it's gonna be Lando, and it's not. And it could have been perfect. Like also the red lapel. I don't know if you knew this, like if you made this connection, but people talked about Indiana Jones, where he's wearing a white tux and a red lapel like flower. And like people are like, oh, that'd be hilarious if you have Lando wearing like the exact same like tuxedo or something very similar, and it's in a casino. Who gambles? Lando gambles. It was just a loss in that case. And then they don't even like, that's what irritated me, is like, oh, let's bring them there, and you have this area, this like, let's free the horse things for a while, and then they get locked up and they don't actually get the code breaker. They get Benicio del Toro.
And while it's fine, the fact that the code breaker's there, like this leads into my couple of other like things that I don't like, but like, why are you trying to add realistic elements to the fantasy thing? Like, you already made them waste time. You already wasted my time and wasted their time of like going to this random planet and finding this guy. They find the guy, and then he's there, and they don't get to talk to.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like, it's such a waste. Like, they could have deleted all of that, and Rose could have been the code breaker, or Maz could have been like, you got to find this guy, and then they just go into a bar on Coruscant or someplace like that, and he just happens to be there, and maybe he's a little cagey about working with them, but they're like, I don't know, they give some story element to get him to come in, and they mention Maz, and he's like, yeah, she's a heck of a whatever, and then you're like, they both have kind of feelings for each other. And
this leads to the and I know that we haven't gotten to like what you dislike next, but the amount of realism, just small things like, we've never talked about fuel in the Star Wars universe. ever, like, we know it exists. We know the fuel is there. Like, we know that, but we've never talked, like, never in the history of ever have we worried about a ship running out of fuel. That now becomes a thing.
Yeah.
Never in the, like, never.
Yeah.
Like, and that's the whole reason, like, that she's got a watch on there keeping track of, like, the how much time they have left in terms of fuel. And I get that that's like what that's the angst isn't the word I'm looking for, but that's the crux of why they have to do everything. But like, you can't just all of a sudden insert realism into this fantasy stuff, like, especially whenever you have Leia pop out of a window and then come back in all frozen ice cubey and still somehow be alive. Which I'm not even going to go into, but
Luke did that in the books, and Luke also projected himself in the books. So like, there is precedent for some of this, but I agree. There's only one redeeming thing in the casino scene, which is BB-8 rolling around and then that drunk alien trying to like put coins in him or putting coins in him, and they getting angry because he's not paying out. I was like, that was funny, and then the rest of it's horrible.
BB-8 continues to be great.
Yeah, of course, BB-8's great. I absolutely hated the milking. I just don't understand why it's there. I feel like Mark Hamill like did every take of that in the worst way possible, so that way all they had was really like tongue-in-cheek like takes where it's like, this is just stupid, where he's like, like, how hammy can you make that? Like, because the fishing part, they could have just done the fishing, and he's like, I don't want to talk to you, I'm working on my plants and I'm gonna fish something, and like, you can keep following me, but which is very I can't remember what movie that is. It's kind of like I know that was it Last Dragon kind of had a bit of it, but like the idea of a master being like, I'm not going to teach you, and the pupil just keeps following them, and he's like, all right, you can keep watching me, but I don't care. Like, you could have that, which is what I think they were trying to get to, but the milking didn't need to be there. We have blue milk, now we have green milk. I don't need to see a bantha being milked.
It didn't, like, it was already kind of like the second that he like threw the lightsaber, it already took his character in a weird direction, and the fact like that he's being completely avoidant, and the fact that he's not even like saying anything other than go away. So at that point, he's already off-putting to me. So the milk thing, the only weird part about it was like the animal like turning its head and looking at Rey.
Yeah, and the animal just is there. They have like 3 or 4 of them just there.
Yeah.
He didn't have to, like, they're not caged or they're not fenced. They're just there. So like, he didn't use the Force to get it to like to communicate with it, and then like nope, they're just there and they're ready for being milked. And I'm like,
I did like that Chewie had already killed a Porg, had already cooked a Porg, and then there's this Porg sitting there watching it. Like,
that was funny.
I thought it was great. I know that that's plenty of cheese, but the fact that he had already killed one, cooked it, and then all of a sudden can't do it now because another one's looking at him.
I thought that was funny. I'll admit that. And also the like, he has like, and maybe this is just my complaint, but like, he's holding it, and if you've ever like roasted a chicken or anything like that, like, it's still rigid, like it's a piece of plastic.
Yeah.
So he's like holding it, and the legs are just like this.
Yeah.
Right. So like, they're just like this, and he's like moving it, and the legs just stay where they are. And I'm like they should be like moving, or falling off, because it was like, I don't know.
It's a prop.
But yeah, it's a prop. It's a prop. I know why they were there, because they were removing puffins from like other scenes, so they're like, oh, we'll just make them a thing. Which, yeah, porgs are cute, that's fine, but like, I'm glad that they didn't completely take over like people thought they were going to.
So the other thing that I absolutely hate, like, there's stuff that I don't like, but just things that really take me out of the movie, is Poe is not an idiot. Why do they make him an idiot? Why would they not? I understand that she demoted him for not listening, and you know, I can see that aspect of him not listening in the first scene with the bombers. I can see that. I can see him doing that because he's in the throes of battle. Like, that's what you're doing. But the second part of not not just taking 5 minutes to being like, hey, we're gonna use this ship as a decoy and we're gonna send the other ships like away.
Yeah.
While this one's being a decoy. You can't just tell them that.
Yeah.
You can't tell the head of your fighter squadron that you're going to create a diversion with the big ship and send the other small ships to that planet. Oh, hey, did you know there's a planet right there, guys? Oh, cool. Whoa, what's that planet doing there? Oh, there used to be a base there.
Oh, yeah.
Pikachu face.
Yeah, you just need to tell him, and like, especially the person who's going to go rogue. You're like, I need to contain this, right? It's like, I don't know what he's doing. He's a wild card at this point. I need to contain it. You either lock him up. You don't. If you punish him, he's just going to be angry.
Sure.
But like, and that's what happened. Like, you could have just gone, hey, this is what's going on, and give him a role to play in it, and be like, I need you to do this and this. Make sure it's distracted. We're going to be all right. We're going to minimize losses because of that, and that didn't happen. Poe is a moron in this movie, and he didn't need to be. He was cocky in the first movie, but it's like he's cocky he's sure of himself. Yeah. So he's not slimy. In this movie, he's just dumb and cocky for no reason.
And like, you face off against somebody, we don't learn about her character. Awesome casting, by the way, for the general. I can't think of her name.
Laura Dern.
Laura Dern is her actual name. I can't think of the general's name, but awesome casting. Great thing. You have somebody who you even mention in the movie lore that is a great military leader. You don't think she knows what she's doing? And even if she won't tell you, and then after that, why wouldn't she tell you?
Yeah.
That just blows my mind of like, and that transferred over to the codebreaker that they got and how they realized the ships were there. How did the codebreaker know the plan? Finn didn't know the plan. Rose didn't know the plan. Like, apparently nobody knew the plan except for like Leia and this other general, or who else knows, because they were refueling those ships.
Yeah.
Who did everybody know about the plan but Poe? I don't understand. It didn't get it. I get that you had that happen for some stupid reason where you're training him how to be a leader by the end of the movie, where they teach him about hope and all that crap. But that took me out of it, because I just don't, from a military perspective, I don't see how you wouldn't make one of your top leaders in the know.
Yeah, no, I agree. Because we keep ranting about this, but I'll leave one more, and then we'll kind of talk a little.
We haven't even gotten to Snoke, but
yeah, that's what I meant. That was my one more, which was Snoke. You kill Snoke, like you kill Snoke, who is the big bad of this arc, because it's not Kylo, because you're hinting at redemption. You have to have an evil, like, this is straight up evil. Like, you don't tell me any backstory of who he is. And I did see someone who was talking online who was saying, like, well, they showed the Emperor and he was mysterious. I'm like, yeah, but we didn't have movies to look at before. Now I'm like, we have this gap of time, and we're like, where did this guy come from in that gap of time? They didn't explain it. I know there's more in some of the books, but they even barely explained it in the books. They're like, as if they were waiting to have an answer. Maybe we'll have one in episode 9, and then we just kill him.
I would bet good money.
Yeah.
I would bet great money that the only reason that Palpatine is in episode 9 is because Rian Johnson killed Snoke.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I know they said, Palpatine was always part of...
BS.
I don't think so. I think that Snoke can lead to like a greater evil. I forgot the name of them. I wanted to say Chitauri, and they're not the Chitauri. The ones that I know it's completely wrong. I know. Okay. What's the name of the alien race that like the Emperor, like creating the Death Star and all of that? Like, he was actually like, part of what he was doing was to stop this alien race from like coming in, and they attack. I don't remember what it was now. It's an alien race that's like essentially like not like the Geth and like Mass Effect, but that kind of like idea where they're way hidden, and then when they come, they're just gonna wreck everything. And Palpatine in doing what he did with the Empire was also protecting us from them. So when the Empire falls, like they come in more. I forgot the name of the alien race now, but like, I'm like, you could allude to a greater evil, like an evil that's outside of
the Yuuzhan Vong.
Yeah, that's what it was. See, I'm like, completely wrong. I'm pretty sure that was them. But like the idea was like it's a greater evil that we didn't know about, and like holy crap, you taking out this person actually brings up this other danger. And Snoke could be something, not that he has to be from them, but the idea of it being like he's from another galaxy or something, and then you start bringing in like that. Not necessarily like race, but like their armies in like maybe he's like planning to merge them all together, or like he's working with some, evil elsewhere, and you get nothing. You have nothing. That irritated me because why would everyone surround themselves and make this guy their leader when you have other people that you see were part of the Empire that are not? They're not the leader.
Yeah,
that was irritating.
And I was about to say, like, I get that they're making Kylo feel like he's now, like, getting up to his destiny because he feels like should be leading this thing, but, like, if that was where it ended, like, if they didn't want to end Episode 9 on a good note, I could see something like that happening, where, like, Kylo, like, maybe there isn't exactly a resolution at the end of 9. Or at least not the resolution everybody wants. Maybe good doesn't necessarily win at the end of Episode 9. Like, I could see that being a direction that you'd go, but to have it happen here, where Kylo takes over now, when he's definitely more mature than he was in Episode 7.
Sure.
But they also take that away from him. They made him They made him a lot more mature. They made him more calm. They made him more collective. And then he sees Luke and goes back to raging child Kylo. So they destroyed all that character development that they put in the first 2 hours and 20 minutes of the movie. And so I just don't agree with the decision to kill off Snoke, or if they did, I don't agree with the decision of regressing Kylo with Luke. Like, if there had been, like, not necessarily a calm, like, he could still be angry in terms of Luke and still try and, like, shoot him, but, like, if he had, like, said, like, fire everything in, like, a chill, like, badass, like, tone of, like, yeah, give it to him, and then, like, there's something there. Maybe I feel differently about Snoke's killing, but because they did that to him, like, it.
Yeah. I think they were trying to be like, oh, he's like all dark and he's all rage, and I'm like, no, that didn't feel like rage to me.
Yeah.
It ruined the arc for it. Essentially, this movie ruined the arc of like all of everything that Episode 7 set up. And that's the thing that people were irritated about when it comes to Rian Johnson, which I saw Knives Out a couple weeks ago. Knives Out's a great movie. And I think that if Rian Johnson was given a Star Wars movie that was not Episode 8, if he was given something that's a side thing, I don't think we would have been like trashing it as hardcore, because this movie there's so much was riding on this movie being successful and being good. And it just was a huge letdown.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And yeah, I'm not gonna call it a huge letdown, because again, I like some things that he went out of the box on. I like what he did to Force Power. I like the thing at the end, even though I hated where the kid came from in terms of that casino planet. And like, I get why he was saying like Rey's parents don't matter, and they might retcon that. We'll see in Episode 9 if they change that. That they probably will. But I liked the kid at the end doing the thing where, like, if we're establishing that the Jedi are ending, I like the fact, like, they're showing people already, like, recognizing Force powers within themselves. Maybe they're not, obviously they're not trained, but showing, like, the Force sensitives are still there. I like the directions that they were that Ryan was trying to take the Jedi lore. Yeah, it's just the execution of, like, he's a great filmmaker too, but like the direction that he took a lot of the characters, don't understand why he did it. Not just that I don't like it. I didn't get how it played into it. It didn't feel like a middle arced movie. At the end of this movie, it did not feel like an Empire. It did not even feel like an Attack of the Clones, where like you clearly know what is going to be set up in Episode 9. We have no idea what's going to happen in Episode 9.
You're exactly right.
And now with a new director, we have doubly no idea, and so it didn't feel like that.
Yeah, we have one movie. To rectify this. And I feel like we had an Episode 7, and then we had someone else like do their like fan what would have been a 7.5, like where it's like, all right, well, it's going to be some of this, some of that, and then like I want the next movie to be 8, and it's not. And it's not because I don't, because I want everything to be erased from episode 8. It's just there's not enough. I feel like I think it's 2.5 hours for the next one as well. I don't think that's enough time. I don't think it's enough time. I think it's 2 hours and 2.5 or 2:40.
It's going to be too long.
I don't think it's going to be long enough. I think it's going to be a situation like Avengers Endgame or Infinity War where you're like, that still felt rushed.
Man, if JJ would have made this a part 2, I would have flipped my.
Oh, 8 part 2?
Yeah. or if they would have made 9 part 1 and 2, I would have flipped. Everybody would have flipped, but I would have been so upset.
I would have been happy. I would have been like, I would have been like, you got me, because you're like, there's only it's a 9-part trilogy, but we're 9-part.
I still hold that against Harry Potter. I will hold that against Harry Potter forever.
That was the dumbest thing
for introducing that bit, like, and honestly, like, in a way, it still worked. But I didn't like that they didn't introduce it earlier. But the fact that then it turned The Hobbit into 3 parts, the fact that we got like Twilight, the last book of Twilight was 2 parts. What else?
Yeah,
like all these,
2 books.
Yeah, right.
Movies, yeah.
All these things that are net, but that's why he didn't do it. He just said, "Here's a 2 hour and 40-minute Star Wars movie," and I bet that's why the reviews are the way they are, is because I bet there's some fixing going on, and I bet there's some like, hey, here's what I was trying to do with Force Awakens stuff going on. We'll see. We're gonna talk about it soon.
We will, and I can't wait. I have a prediction. I have a feeling that the way that Episode 9 is going to be set up is that you could watch Episode 7, and then you could watch Episode 9, and you'd be like, I know there was something in between, but I get all of the story here and all the story there.
The machete order.
Yeah, it's like watch 7, 9, and put 8 with Solo, I think is what's going to happen there. It's like we know it exists, but I don't think people are going to go back and watch it very often. I'll still probably end up watching it. I love Star Wars. But anyways, let us know what you thought about Episode 8. And don't spoil Episode 9, but are you excited about Episode 9? Do you think that it's going to fix the series or put us back on the right track? What do you think? What do you think, Owen?
I think it's going to do something. But I will say, doing this thing where we watched all 8 movies this last couple months, and now we're going to lead that into 9. Been great. It's been fun. It's been a pleasure. Yeah. I liked it.
It has been. We'll continue doing it with Rebels and Clone Wars and all kinds of stuff, and I'm sure there will be more Star Wars to talk about. We'll see if we can fill it out until we get to Obi-Wan. We'll see.
We still got Mandalorian. We got things.
We got lots to talk about, and non-Star Wars stuff will be in there too.
Yeah, but someday.
We'll see you guys later.
Okay, bye.